Empowered people make informed decisions that lead to living a life without regret. This is Sara and Shawna Woods from Atlanta Divorce Law Group, and this is the Happily Ever After Divorce Podcast. Welcome to the Happily Ever After Divorce Podcast. I'm Sara with Atlanta Divorce Law Group, and I'm joined by our very own managing partner, Shawna Woods. Shawna, today we're going to talk about a buzzword that's used a lot in our industry in family law, and it's the term amicable divorce.
Yep.
Now, if you were to look up in the dictionary, the word amicable means friendly, non-contested, non-conflict oriented, cooperative.
Without serious disagreements.
Look, you've looked it up. Without any serious disagreement. What does this term develop to mean in the practice of law? Pretend I am coming to you as a person who is considering divorce, and I've heard this word, through all my online searches. I keep looking, I see amicable divorce. I go on social media, people are advertising amicable divorce to me. My spouse comes to me and says, honey, let's do this through an amicable divorce process. What does that even mean? Is that different than just saying, let's get divorced and be respectful and friendly?
So I think that it's a great marketing tool to say, hey, let's have a divorce that isn't messy and isn't dirty and isn't gritty.
Right.
I think it's a fantastic marketing tool. But I think that's what it is a marketing tool. Because the reality of the situation is that most divorces, when you have two mature people who have adequate representation, can go through a process where we say, this is not a difficult divorce. There may be some disagreements that we're going to have to work through, but it can be a process in which is fairly straightforward. Going through a divorce isn't nice. It's not friendly, and there's probably going to be some disagreements along the way.
Right.
I always tell people, and I've said this, I learned this probably in my third year of practice from someone else, that you don't want somebody who's a sheep, right? Who just goes along to get along. That's not what you want in an attorney. But nor do you want an attorney who calls himself a bulldog, right? Because a bulldog simply wants to fight, right? They just want to fight because they enjoy it and they want to start it. We try to be what in the middle is a fox. Sometimes I need to fight and sometimes I need to go along. But you need an attorney who's actually dedicated to you and your needs and your divorce in order to decide when do they need to be assertive and maybe even go to that fight and go to the mat for you, and when they can back off and say, okay, we can compromise here. So when we hear the word amicable divorce, of course we're drawn to it. Who wouldn't want to be? Who wants to go through something nasty and dirty and ugly? But that's what they're selling you, is if you're not coming with us because we say we're amicable,
right,
then you're going to the nasty, the dirty, and ugly, and it's simply not true. The other part about this amicable divorce idea is among attorneys, we have professional courtesies that we give each other. Most of us, if we pick up the phone, I say, hey, Sara, I need to talk to you. Sara's going to call me back and find out what it is my client needs, right? That's a professional courtesy. But if I agree that Sara and I are simply going to be nice to each other, we're not going to have any disagreements,
right?
How is that serving my client if my client has a disagreement with your client? Right? So when we're talking about amicable, I love the word. Who doesn't love the word? It's a great word. But I think it's a bow wrapped around something that's simply not true. It's an empty present promise.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the nail by saying that the way it's being marketed to divorce clients is that it makes them feel bad if they go with something that's not called amicable, because it means, does that mean that my spouse, I am going for an ugly divorce? Does that mean that my spouse is going to think that I don't want to be amicable? Amicable divorce does not come based on who you choose to hire. It comes based on you and the other party being able to communicate and partner with each other through the divorce process by saying, let's not shoot both of our feet in this process.
Yes.
If I have self-interest and you have self-interest, we'll realize that everything we're splitting up is coming from the same pie. And the fight that we're having over these children, they're the same children that are going to only get hurt if they're hurt. And if two parties can have that clarity with each other, then each person can also go and vet out and hire an attorney that understands that and hears their values, hears their priorities, and is willing to stand up for those values and priorities for them. And that means sometimes that attorney has to be the one that has the hard and tough conversation with the opposing attorney so that the two parties who are getting divorced and who have decided to be respectful towards each other can maintain that and focus on their children and on their family instead of fighting each other. But the attorneys have to be the ones that are willing to have those hard, confronting conversations to make sure each person is protecting the values and the priorities of their client. Not get ugly, not get nasty. Let's just put that in an outlier box and say, hopefully that is few in between attorneys that put their own self-interest of fighting in court over their clients. But your stand-up attorney who took an oath and takes it seriously will take their client's interests and their priorities and values first.
You hit on so many good points right there, and I just want to kind of flesh it out just a little bit. I often say, let me be the bad guy. Right? You have kids together. You guys don't need to end up in litigation in court tearing each other apart. This is a co-parenting relationship, and you want to set the tone. But there are hard conversations that have to be had. So let me have those hard conversations with the other attorney so that the two of you can co-parent successfully post-divorce. That's part of it right there. It's so important. The other part of that is I feel very passionately that if you have an attorney who is able, capable, and always prepared to pull that court button, you're going to be more successful in negotiations.
Right.
You're going to be able to look at the whole picture and say, I can give this counseling, and I do take that term counseling to my client. We need to settle on this. This won't look good for you if we go to court. Or, you know what, they're being completely unreasonable here. If you want to pull that trigger, now may be the time.
So the reason why that works, Shawna, is because in all negotiations in life, whether we want to talk about it from a political stage or we want to talk about it from a business negotiation or a divorce negotiations, they require a carrot and a stick. And if I don't believe there are consequences to me negotiating in full faith and with integrity, and I don't believe that if I don't do that, there's going to be consequences of court, I will not fully participate in the negotiations in a fair manner.
Absolutely.
I will sell my client short. And this is the problem I have when you have divorce law being practiced as only one menu item of amicable divorce is all we have here. Because if our firm, for instance, Atlanta Divorce Law Group, said all we do is amicable divorces, when we deal with an opposing counsel, how confident are they going to be that if they don't listen to our side of the negotiation and take our line in the sand seriously, that we're going to go in court and we'll be damn prepared for that trial? But knowing that we are trial attorneys who are very comfortable going to court and well prepared to do so and have a strong record in court, brings them to the negotiation table in a much more efficient way, in a way that's a lot more honest and with good faith in their negotiations, because they take it seriously when we say, here is our offer.
Absolutely. And to me, it just goes back to my oath and my dedication is to my client and what they need. And although I love to give professional courtesy, and I have friends that are also family law attorneys, my focus has to be on my client because that is the oath that I took. My oath is not I'm going to go ahead and be nice to this other attorney or to their client because I promised to do so.
And that is the problem of being drawn to this word without truly understanding from the client's perspective. Because really, this is about informing potential divorce clients to be informed consumer of the legal services. And I feel very strong about that because that is what leads to empowered decisions, which is part of our mission here. And I want anybody who's considering hiring a divorce attorney be an informed consumer of what does it mean when somebody says we are only amicable divorce attorneys. And I believe in our profession that's a real problem because it is sending the message to the opposing party that come hell or high water, we are committed to being not selling our client short if it means that we have to settle and not go to court.
Or simply give in to the other party because we're part of the same word buzz.
Right. And like I said, a carrot and stick. If you don't feel the stick will come if you don't go for the carrot, where is the efficiency and the good faith of properly, and let's use the word amicably, settle something? Now, the other part of this is that I want to inform clients of legal services is, to Shawna's point, you can have an amicable divorce without necessarily calling it that. Most cases do not go to trial.
True.
Most cases settle outside of trial, outside of even being decided by a judge. And whether that means they're done through negotiations on a settlement offer, which we do very frequently. We prepare a settlement offer, parties negotiate amongst themselves or use us to negotiate it, and we advise on the negotiations or we advise on the terms, and then we can file it as an uncontested, or we file and we still can negotiate. We can still keep things respectful and without an ugly fight and negotiate and then, file a settlement offer after we filed for petition for divorce, or it can come to mediation. So there are so many trigger points throughout the divorce process that allows you to respectfully negotiate and settle the divorce before it ever goes to trial or goes before a judge.
I tell clients all the time that 80 to 85% of cases should and do settle without ever seeing the inside of a courtroom.
Right.
And if somebody is chasing you to trial, you need to check yourself on that end too.
Absolutely. And that's the other end of the spectrum of attorney putting their interests before the client, wanting to win in court and shine in court, coming before the client's priorities.
When I look at the menu items, as you say, what you want in a firm, when you're interviewing attorneys and when you're looking at a firm, is you want a full menu item. You want to be able to say, I don't know how this is going. I think we're going to be able to do this uncontested. Wonderfully, great. I've got that menu item for you. I think we're going to have some tough negotiations. That's okay. We have this person for you.
Right.
And some people come in and say, hey, I've got a narcissist on the other side. I know this is going to trial. Okay, we've got that for you too.
And the reason that is so important is because more often than not, you believe you have one type of divorce.
Yes.
And once the process actually gets started and the reality sinks in, behaviors can change. And your divorce that maybe was supposed to be amicable all of a sudden gets heated, and you need somebody that is on it a lot more and is willing to have those uncomfortable conversations with the opposing party. Or, fingers crossed, you might have expected that the other person was going to fight you on something, and it actually turns out that they're willing to cooperate and negotiate.
Yes. And I do find that people are willing to cooperate and negotiate, to your point earlier, when they know someone on the other side is going to hold their feet to the fire.
Right. At the end of the day, it's everything we know about managing anything in life. Accountability. Accountability is what makes people hold themselves responsible and take you seriously and take themselves seriously and take the process seriously. And when you have two attorneys who have committed that no matter what happens, we will not argue. We will not fight over anything. We will not take anything to court. Accountability is gone, because the stick of, if this does not work out, we are in the hands of a judge or a trial, is what brings everybody a whole nother level of clarity and clearness and accountability to see this through in the best interest of their client. Thanks for listening to the Happily Ever After Divorce podcast. If you'd like to learn more, go to atlantadivorcelawgroup.com/resources.